Hey everyone, Mrs. Spatola here, just going over some of the adding and subtracting of fractions with like denominators. If you didn't get it in class yesterday, here are the answers. And let's take a look at the next page. So when we are adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators, let's go down and take a look at number 1. The steps are here. And basically, here's what you want to do. You want to stack up the fractions. Find the LCD, which is the same thing as the least common multiple. You're going to use that least common multiple to create equivalent fractions. You're going to add or subtract the numerators. Remember, when your denominators are the same, you just bring it down or you keep the denominator. You never, never, never add or subtract denominators. It's always about the numerators. The denominators have to be the same, and then once your denominators are the same, you can add and subtract the numerators only. So let's go through, I'm going to go through some of these problems with you. So let's take a look at problem number 1. So I'm doing my work over on the side, 1/4 plus 2/3. The first thing you want to do is set up this giant plus sign. I know it seems like a lot of work. It really isn't, honestly. It's a way to organize your work. This way you can understand the process. So 1/4 plus 2/3. Automatically, I see that the denominators are different. That's why I'm stacking it up. So according to the steps and the rules, the first thing I'm going to do in this box here is I'm going to find the LCM or the LCD. Okay, I'm going to pull the LCD. And my numbers are 3 and 4. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to list all the multiples of 3 and 4. Now, some of you right off the bat might already say, hey, I can see it's 12. That's great. Once you understand how this works, you don't have to make the lists anymore. But until that time, some of you just need to work a little more practice with your facts, with your numbers. Okay, so you want to list all of the multiples of the two numbers for the denominators. So I see that my denominator is 12. So the next thing I'm going to do in this box over here is I'm going to organize and set up my new denominators. I can only add or subtract when the denominators are the same. So basically what I'm creating here are equivalent fractions, fractions that are equal. So next step. So how do I get 1/4 to become a denominator of 12? Well, remember, making equivalent fractions, you either have to multiply the numerator and denominator or divide the numerator and denominator to create equivalent fractions. So if I see that my denominator is going to be 12, what I do is I say to myself, okay, 4 goes into 12 how many times? 4 goes into 12 how many times? 3. So I know that 4 times 3 is 12. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So now it's 3 times 1, which is 3. So 1/4 is equal to 3/12. All I did was create equivalent fractions. The next thing I'm going to do is the same thing for 2/3. So now for 2/3, I say to myself, 3 goes into, there's my alarm, 3 goes into 12 how many times? 3 divided into 12 goes how many times? 4. Or I say to myself, 3 times 4 is 12, so whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 3 times 4 is 12, 4 times 2 is 8. Now it's addition. This is the biggest thing. Make sure you bring your sign over because kids sometimes subtract when they have to add and vice versa. So now 8 plus 3 is 11 over 12. And I take a good look at it and I say, you know what? That's in simplest form. And I am finished. Now you can check it with your calculator. Okay, you can check it with your calculator. Check with your calc. Okay, and how do you do that? Okay, by using that ABC key. That ABC key is huge. So if you try 1 ABC 4 plus 2 ABC 3 equals, it should automatically give you 11/12. And that's how you can check your answers for all of these actually. So you can check it with your calculator, but all of this work here, you have to show your work. There are other methods and other ways that I can show you in class that we'll be looking at, but for the most part, you want to understand that you are creating equivalent fractions. The denominator has to be the same in order for you to add or subtract fractions. Okay, we'll go through some of the others. Let's write out number 2. If you need to get another piece of paper and do some work on separate paper, that's perfectly fine. Let's write out number 2, 2/3 plus 1/5. So the first thing you want to find is the least common denominator or least common multiple of 3 and 5. So you can look at both of them, and sometimes you can even multiply them together and look at them and say 3 times 5 is 15. Could that be it? Well, 5, 10, 15. I definitely think that's it. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And once you get better at listing and finding the LCD or the LCM, you do not have to make the list anymore. All right, so let's keep going here. So now we're going to rewrite our fractions with the same denominator. So now I'm going to write equivalent fractions using 15 as my denominator. So 5 times what is 15? Or 5 goes into 15 how many times? 3. So I'm going to multiply this by 3 over 3. 5 times 3 is 15. 3 times 1 is 3. Same thing here on the top. 3 goes into 15 how many times? 5. So I'm going to multiply by 5 over 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 5 is 10. Now I'm adding, so I want to make sure I bring over my sign. 10 plus 3 is 13 over 15. Is that in simplest form? No common factors. I am finished. Now you can, again, check it with your calculator. 2ABC3 plus 1ABC5 equals, and it should get you the 13 over 15. Now keep in mind, boys and girls, you definitely need to show work. So as long as you have some work there, you will get credit for the problem. Okay, let's take a look at number 3 at the top. Okay, we have 5 over 6 minus 4/9. So let's write that out. Okay, when I set it up, 5 over 6 plus 4 over 9, my LCM for 6 and 9. So you find the LCM, and then what you do is you set up the problem with the new denominator. So when I look at 9 and 6, I see that my denominator is going to be 18. And again, boys and girls, very important to know your facts. There is a multiplication chart in the back of your workbook, your current workbook. In workbook number 1, the multiplication tables go up to 20. So if you want to rip that out and actually tuck that in, fold that in half, or tuck it in the back of your current workbook, that's fine too. So now I'm looking at the LCM or the LCD is 18. So now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to rewrite my least common denominator here. So now look what's happening. I am actually rewriting this here, 5 over 6 as a fraction with 18 as a denominator. Well, how do I do that? Well, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be multiplying by 3 over 3. Well, where did I get 3 over 3? 6 times 3 is 18. So now 5 times 3 is 15. So 5 over 6 is equal to 15 over 18. I made it into an equivalent fraction. For 4/9, the next part here, what am I doing here? I'm rewriting this fraction as a denominator, as an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 18. So how do I do that? I multiply that by 2 over 2. Why? Because 9 times 2 is 18. 4 times 2 is 8. Now I'm all set. I have equivalent fractions. I can add them together. So now the next thing is I'm going to add 15 plus 8 is 23 over 18. Then I see that the numerator is bigger than the denominator, so I have an improper fraction. So I must make sure that I divide. So 18 divided into 23 goes 1 time. How much is left? Okay, how much is left? 1. I know my denominator is going to stay at 18, and the numerator is going to be 5. So it's 1 and 5 over 18 is my final answer in simplest form. By the way, how did I get this? It's 23 divided by 18. Okay? And there you have it. Let's take a look at the remaining answers for numbers 1 through 4. And there's the answer to number 3. It's 13 over 20. The least common denominator was 20. And then lastly, let's look at number 4. And there you have your answer for number 4, which is 17 over 36. Today's homework is going to be the next page in your workbook. So this is page 177 for today. You're going to try problems numbers 1 through, this should actually be problem number 7. So try 1 through 7. Make sure you're showing your work and check with your calculator. Okay? So hopefully you did a good job, and we'll see you tomorrow in class. For now, this is Mrs. Spatola wishing you a great day. And remember, always, always be kind.